Hi, everybody. This is Tamara Kelly from Moogly, and I am so excited that you decided to join me for this live. Thank you so much for being with us today. It is, I believe, January 22nd, 2025. And of course, it's a crazy time. So many of us are under this polar vortex right now. I think I saw something where, like, Southern Florida is the only one escaping the cold right now. I was just up in New York this past weekend for Vogue Knitting Live, and it was amazing, but it was a little scary when it started snowing the very last day, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to escape New York or not. But I did make it out. I got home safe and sound. Some of the people I were working with flew back to Louisiana. Baton Rouge has snow, you guys. This weather is crazy. So it is a great time, of course, to be a crocheter or a knitter because we can make all the things to keep ourselves warm. And I saw so many beautiful things at Vogue Knitting Live this weekend. I will tell you, knit, crochet, Tunisian crochet, weaving, it doesn't matter what your craft of choice is. It was so well represented there in beautiful things that people were wearing. So many gorgeous items. Now, in terms of trends, I would say it's honestly the same stuff we've been seeing for a while, but it's texture. There's lots of texture, lots of Tunisian garments. Maybe it's just people I was hanging out with, but I saw so many gorgeous Tunisian crochet garments and wearables, sweaters, really stunning things, texture and color work. It seems like most of the people I talked to when I asked them what was keeping them inspired, what kept them going and whatever their craft was, color work. Color really seemed to be the thing that everybody was getting really excited about. And there were definitely some very colorful and beautiful yarns there for sale, as well as some amazing yarn artists. I think a lot of us have heard of some of the bigger names like maybe Olek or London K, people who do these, big famous installations. And London K did, in fact, have a really fun Scrabble inspired piece there, which was really neat. She had made a giant Scrabble board, and people were able to take letters that she had crocheted, letter tiles, and add them to the board to create their own words and sayings. So that was a really neat thing. And it was really interactive, and that was pretty cool. There was also an interactive one, Strap Hangers Lounge, I think is what they called it. And I apologize, I don't remember the name of the artists. That one's a collaborative one where they had created an actual like train car out of fabric with some crocheted, like a crocheted Metro card and signage and things like that. That was also really neat. And then there was another one by a lady named Sarah Divvy, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, but she had made a huge knitted UFO and she had used green sparkly yarn coming down so you could kind of stand inside it and look like you were being sucked up into the UFO. And then, of course, there were more artists there making really neat, all kinds of neat things. Sculptures, there was some felted art, lots of crocheted, lots of knitted, other ways to just sort of glue yarn onto or onto a canvas, I guess you'd say, to make faces. I don't know if they were glued, maybe they're sewn on. Just so many neat things, and it was really, really cool and inspirational. In fact, and I wish I'd known she was going to be there. I have her book, and I didn't bring it with me. I wish I'd brought it to get it signed. If you're familiar with the book Victorian House Cats to Knit, she was there as well with the cats. So that was really cool and a really interesting thing to to see. And it was just so inspiring from the art to the people to the yarn itself. Vogue Knitting Live really was quite a fun event. Now, while I was there, I was mostly taking pictures and talking to people, but I did get to host the game night on Friday night, which is kind of the kickoff, and that was a blast. It was packed, let me tell you. They added so many more tables as people kept coming in, but I got to call the bingo, which was a lot of fun. It wasn't letters and numbers. It was little phrases like circular needles or cable needle or darning needle. All I can think of right now is needles. There was other stuff, knit, purl, crochet, things like that. So that was really fun, and that was a wonderful evening. We gave out a ton of prizes. I was there with Go Sadie, which is a really neat pattern depository. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a really amazing website that I think is going to really revolutionize things. It's launching this summer, so I'll talk more about that as the year goes on. But that was a really neat event. And then let me think. Saturday, I got to do the talking for the fashion show, the Go Sadie fashion show, which was really lovely. Some gorgeous knit and crochet designs walked the runway, and I got to talk about them a little bit. And then on Sunday, I was also on a panel discussion about Go Sadie. So it was a real whirlwind weekend. Absolute blast. I got to go to the gala dinner. I never know how to say that. Is it gala? 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 Feels like it should be Gaia or something, but gala dinner. And that had a keynote presentation by Brooklyn Tweed. If you're familiar with Brooklyn Tweed at all, they're sort of a smaller, well, I mean, they're big, but they're a smaller yarn company, primarily sold, I believe, through local yarn stores and probably on their website. I'll be honest, I'm not as familiar with them, but I think that made it for an even more interesting keynote presentation. I really got to hear the story behind it and learn more about it, although I didn't learn the practicals of where to go buy it. So anyway, maybe a no for next time, I guess. So hi, everybody. Hi, Anna, Sue Ann, Dika, everybody who's here watching live. That's my ramble. That was my Vogue Knitting Live experience. It all was wonderful. The only hiccup was, I'll tell you a little story. I flew back into Minneapolis, which is not where I live, but it's where my middle child's going to school. And I wanted to see him off before he started his second semester at the university. So I flew back into Minneapolis, so cold to colder. Oh my gosh, it was so cold there when we arrived. But I was waiting by the baggage carousel, and it turns out there was someone with very nearly identical luggage to me, down to the tag that we had put on top to distinguish our luggage from everybody else. So I ended up accidentally walking away with his bag. He walked away with my bag. Thankfully, we realized I was, with my family. We got, maybe 20, 30 feet away. I realized, wait, this isn't my suitcase. Ran around, turned around, tried to throw it back on the luggage carousel, discreetly, like, oh, nope, that didn't happen. Quickly realized my luggage was now gone. Stood there, waited there. Thankfully, the guy came back. It was a huge mix-up. We literally stole each other's luggage. So my advice to you is crochet something even more distinctive. Add a second or third little crochet doodad to your luggage, or knit it, or tape, or whatever it is, to make it a little bit more distinguishable, because no matter how unique you think your suitcase is, there's going to be a doppelganger out there somewhere. But thankfully, I got my luggage back. I got all my crocheted things back, all my yarn, all my goodies that I will be sharing with you guys in the coming months. I've got some really fun giveaways, things that I picked up at Vogue Knitting Live that, like I say, I will be able to share and give away with you guys over the next few months, so we can all do that together and have a little taste of Vogue Knitting Live. So that is my report from that. Now, things that are coming up in the future. We've got lots to talk about, and I'm going to jump around a little bit today. First things first, just got the news that Stitch Up Chicago is coming back in April, early April. That's all I can say about it right now, other than I'll be there. But look for more information on that coming up soon. So if you're in Chicago or the Chicago area, early April, I would love to see you there live. But these are the big ones. The big ones. Drum roll, please. The pages for both Scotland and the Austria-Bavaria trips are up. Those are with crafttours.com. I will be there, and I want you guys to be there, as many as possible. We're going to Scotland in September, and we're going to Austria and Bavaria, the Christmas markets, in early December. Early December. That's important. Not late December. Early December. So these are going to be some amazing trips. Scotland, if you just love Scotland. If you love tartans, weaving, crochet, if you love Outlander, the Outlander series of books, we'll be making a little stop related to that. It's going to be quite an adventure. And then, like I say, December is Austria, Bavaria, and it's going to be Christmas market, Christmas market, Christmas market, plus a little bit of Sound of Music and Mozart. Really fun trip there as well. And of course, on both of those trips, I will be teaching crochet workshops. So we're going to be together. I'll be touring with you, and it's going to be an absolute blast. We've already done England and Ireland. If you wanted to take a look at those on the blog to get an idea of what sorts of things we do and what my experience was like with those tours, that's great. But I would love for you to join us on those trips. Now, last I looked, and I haven't looked this morning, last I looked, there were still some early bird discounts. So it really does pay to get signed up for those right away. Grab a friend, have a roommate, meet new people. We've had people on the last couple trips who totally came alone, who didn't know anybody. And by the end of the trip, you've made a whole new group of friends. So it is really, you can bring a friend, bring your family. They don't have to know how to knit or crochet. There's other things to do, during the workshop times. Have fun. And it's just such a great time. And I really want as many of you as possible to join us on those trips later this year. So that's all the moving around stuff. Now let's talk about what's been happening on the blog. Moogly Crochet Along 2025 has officially kicked off, and we have our first square courtesy of Jessie at Home. And it is a gorgeous one. Let me hold it up. Isn't this pretty? It's whatever direction you want it to go in. And this one is so much fun. Now you can see I'm using my colors of Red Heart with Love. This is what the back looks like. So very nice and neat as well. A really great reversible square. This is obviously the front, but like I say, I think it still looks nice from the back, which is always nice in a square. But this one, I will tell you, if you've made this one, you know what I'm talking about when I say this one looks bonkers until you put the borders on and get it blocked. When you're making this one, it's going to be almost like a parallelogram. You're thinking, this isn't square, this is crazy. Trust the process, put the borders on, give it a block. Even after 23 years of crocheting, and I don't know at this point how many dozens of these 12-inch squares have I made, I was still amazed how much this one did square up, even just putting the border on. So trust the process with this one, and it really is beautiful. It does require a strong blocking. After I got it all made with the border on, I did break out the steamer a little bit for this one. I didn't want to kill the acrylic. You don't want to melt it. We just want it to relax a little bit into this square shape. And of course, on our finished blanket, it's going to be sewn to other square blankets or crocheted to other square blankets, and that will help square it up even more in the finished one. So there we go. Awesome. Very fun. Now, Beth says, I love this comment. I wish I could crochet with yarn. I only crochet with size 30 thread using 0.8 millimeter needles, crocheting since the age of 10. That's amazing. I think that's very impressive, honestly. I've crocheted with thread, and between the eyesight and the tiny little finger, the needles and everything, I think that's amazing. If that's what you can do, that's so cool. And, the fun thing is, if you can do it in yarn, you can do it in thread. Make tiny little squares. Have you seen the people who make the tiny little thread blankets and things? I think that would be a really fun way to make these squares. I would love to see them made up in thread. So, Beth, if you do that, you've got to post some pictures and join the group so I can see that, because I think that would be phenomenal. But this is our first square for 2025. And of course, we've got 23 more to go. So the next one is already locked and loaded for you guys. I can't wait till you see it. It's going to be an amazing year. And I really do think my stash busting stained glass look, so far, it's working out really beautifully. And I'm very excited about that. So definitely not too late to join in the crochet along. That's the fun of the Moogly crochet along. It's been going on for, 12, 13, 14 years now. A long, long time, all 12-inch squares. So really, you can join in whenever you want. It's still January, so that seems like a silly thing to say, but you're definitely not too late. We'll put it that way for sure. So Cheryl, yes, she said, still got to block mine, but it was a cool square to do. Thank you, Cheryl. That's great to hear. It is a fun square to do, but yes, when you're making it, you'll start thinking this can't be right. Trust the process. So many of the squares, I feel like that's the lesson. Trust the process for sure. Okay, and then our next crochet along currently happening right now is the Odds Are Shawl January crochet along. So this one's just for January. It's just 4 parts, and they're tiny little bite-sized parts. As many of you have already discovered, we're having people, finishing them within a couple hours of when I post them. So this is just a little treat for yourself, crochet along, to make yourself a 1 skein shawl. We're using, get it up here, Karen Colorama Halo Perfect Phasing. Long name, so I always have to look at it first to make sure I get it right. There we are. This yarn comes in tons of colors, and this is what most people are using. That's what I use. You can, of course, use whatever yarn you prefer. This one is a 5 bulky. I think that's mostly because of the halo. Helps it work up a little bit thicker. But you can see this yarn has a color change that goes throughout, and it's all in the yarn itself. The colors aren't joined together. They aren't tied together. The yarn itself makes the color change. And when I decided to make this project, I did a quick little survey. I think it was on Instagram, asking what colors should I use, and I laid out the ones that were really appealing to me, and 2 of them were tied. So the first one was kind of my prototype. I think this one got lots of attention. This beautiful purple. I want to say the colorway is Dark Orchid, something like that. It's written down in the pattern, but this was the first one. And you can see the color change throughout. So you start at the small end and then work through, and it gets bigger. And then this is the other colorway I did. This one also got lots of votes, and I really like the way this one turned out. This one is the Tin and Tan, I believe, colorway. So there's our dark end, and it gradually gets lighter and lighter. And this one fades into this beautiful light gray. So a very different look. This one's sort of pastel, and I guess the other one's sort of pastel too. But you can see you could get some really, really neat effects with this yarn and the different colorways. So we just had part 3 on Monday. I had to think about that for a second. Part 3 went up on Monday. So at this point, all the parts are up except for the border. So the very last part will be this multi-part border that we do going around to finish it up. So like I say, when I made mine, as a designer, I find it really important to make sure that I leave a little extra yarn at the end of the skein because I don't want people to run out of yarn, right? We've all been there where you get to the end of the project, you're just like, that's 6 inches to go, and you run out of yarn. That's the worst. I didn't want that to happen. None of us want that to happen. So I tried to make sure there was a bit extra yarn left over at the end. So if you feel like you've got a ton more yarn and you'd like to add a couple of extra rows, you can. But, just make sure that you have enough set aside there at the end to do those borders. Like I say, there should be a little bit left, but I do that on purpose because everybody's got a slightly different gauge. And if yours is just a little bit bigger than mine, it's a shawl. I don't want you to worry about the gauge. I want you to be able to go ahead and make the project and have enough yarn in that one skein to finish it. If you wanted to make the skein, make the shawl, huge, oversized, make it into what did I hear it called once that I thought was so pretty? A goddess shawl. A big, big, big shawl. Then you could add a second skein, absolutely, and just keep going. If you've made the pattern so far, I think you know how it works, and you can just go back and repeat those sections or your favorite sections, and I think you'll really enjoy it, and you'll be able to adjust that size with a second skein to make it bigger if that's something you'd like to do. So thank you. Oh, Donna says, I'm really enjoying the January crochet along. Thank you so much. I've had such a good time actually doing this crochet along with you guys as well. I'm hoping to maybe add a couple more later in the year, maybe one in the summer, maybe another one in the fall. We'll see. I'm going to be talking to some people and see what we can arrange because I think that would be a lot of fun. And I love the idea of having, especially in January, but really all year long, buy one skein or pick out a skein from your stash and treat yourself to something special that really only takes, as those who've made it know, a few minutes, maybe a little bit more, but really, maybe an hour or so a week to treat yourself and take some time doing something for you, or even, of course, to invest that in a gift for someone else. So I'm so glad to hear you guys are enjoying it. And I definitely think we should do some more of these later in the year. So that is that. What's going on there? What else is going on? We have the Mimosa Crochet Cowl tutorial is up now on YouTube, both right and left-handed. So there we go. You can see this guy. Very simple pattern, very easy to adjust. Make it bigger if you like something big and loose. Make it taller if you want it to be, more of a stovepipe that really stays up. This one has enough stiffness that it stays up pretty good while wearing it. But of course, if you wanted to just keep going, you can keep adding more rows and make it even taller if that's the style you like. It is a really, really warm neck warmer cowl, I guess you could say, which in this weather is so important. I'm trying to think. Some people up here call it kind of like a gaiter, but those are usually really tight. This one isn't tight to the face. A little looser than that. But if you wanted to, you could absolutely eliminate some stitches and make it a tighter fit to the face. So you can see it is a simple stitch repeat, but it has a really nice texture and look to it. And this is what it looks like from the inside, just to give you an idea. You can see right there is the seam. Where'd it go? Backwards. There we go. There's the seams. You can see I carried the yarn right along the inside, but it's not loose and it's not going to catch on anything. And it is nice and smooth from the inside as well. So to make this one, I did use Karen Simply Me, which is a newer yarn from yarnspirations.com. I believe it is exclusively on yarnspirations.com right now. I could be wrong on that. I haven't been into my local yarn stores in a little while. It's not my fault about Joanne, though. But anyway, yeah, the Karen Simply Me is the yarn I used for the Mimosa Crochet Cowl. I used 3 colors. I did not use an entire skein of any of those colors. So like I say, if you wanted to just keep going, this was the right height for me. But if you wanted it taller or shorter for that matter, that would be very, very easy for you to do. So, oh yes, Adrian, I'm so glad. Yes, you're loving the level of activity in the community group for the January Crochet Along. Yes. So if you do join the January Crochet Along, thank you for try that again. Thank you for mentioning that, Adrian. Anyway, if you are joining the crochet along, you want to join in future crochet alongs or just talk about Moogly patterns, don't forget about the Moogly community Facebook group. People are sharing their projects, their works in progress, and it's been so fun to see. And it's been really exciting to see the other colorways worked up because, of course, I had time to make it twice, but I don't have time to make it in all the colors. And it's so fun seeing how all the different colors have worked up with that pattern. So that has been absolutely amazing. So thank you for that. Oh, and Mindy, thank you. Mindy says you can get it at Joann. So thank you for that. Good to know. Support your Joann while it's there, I guess. Yeah, bit of bad news for the world of crafting for sure as far as Joann goes. I don't have any insights into that. So, believe it or not, they didn't consult me. They didn't ask me about it before they had made their decisions. And I don't know anything more than anybody else. So I've had a couple questions, but I cannot answer them because I don't have any information any more than the rest of you. So go out and get your yarn while you can, I guess. It's going to be a sad day if it does indeed go away. So anyway, back to happy things. Karen Simply Me, available wherever yarn is sold for now. We also republished the Rustic Diamond Crochet Beanie. It needed a little love, a little zhuzh. It features a yarn that is discontinued on Yarnspirations, but is available on Amazon. So we got that link up for you guys as well. And then we've got our giveaways going on. So I was talking about Karen Simply Me. It is used in the Mimosa Crochet Cowl and in the new pattern that will come out Friday. I showed you guys this pattern on my last live. I still hadn't had the ends woven in. I finally got the ends woven in. I got the pictures taken. I think I finished editing it yesterday. So it will go up Friday. We will have the Rocky Road wrap. So thank you so much to our naming session on our last live. The Rocky Road wrap will go up on Friday. And this will be another free crochet pattern on Moogly featuring Karen Simply Me. So again, this is the yarn that I used for both of those projects. It's kind of a light label. It's kind of hard to say. It does say Simply Me right there. It is for anybody who wants to substitute or just know more about it. It is a 5 bulky that is in a mix of acrylic, nylon, and wool. So it does have a little bit of wool content. So if you're someone who prefers to avoid wool, you'll want to find just another 5 bulky yarn that you enjoy using. I did use 3 colors of yarn again on this one. And I did have to break into a second skein of the darkest color. I just was not going to have enough to do what I wanted to do. But we used almost all of the white and the lighter brown, and the darker brown I used too. So whatever colors you want to use, if you want to go ahead and get your yarn ahead, make sure you get 2 skeins of whatever your darkest or main color will be. So you can see I used that here on the edges. I just needed a little bit more of that one. But of course, then you can take the rest of that skein and some other yarn and make a cowl. So you're going to have a whole set. I hope you guys will try that pattern out when it comes out on Friday. So thank you. Let's see. And I love Mindy's comment about the crochet along. I like that it doesn't seem all consuming, just an hour or 2 and you're caught up. Yes. So you can get it all done right on time. I love that. Thank you. Other giveaways. Oh, so I talked about that. We've got a giveaway going on for this right now. Karen Simply Me. Don't miss out on that. We have a giveaway going for the Muppets official Crochet Amigurumi book by Drew Hill. This is the first, and as far as I know, still only officially sanctioned crochet book featuring the Muppets. I do always try to respect trademark and copyrights ever since I've learned more. You learn a lot as you go, when we know better, we do better. That's what Maya Angelou said. So I try to be very careful about those things. This one is officially sanctioned by the Muppets. You can see right here. It is official, and it is a really fun book. I've shown this one off a couple of times, but we'll do one more quick flip through. Oop, if I can get it open enough to actually show. You can see we've got a bunch of the classic guys here. Even Animal. Animal always gets lots of love. There we are. So this giveaway is happening right now on Moogly. And one more, the Starter Guide to Tunisian Crochet by Married Beth Temple. Like I was saying, one of the things I noticed at VKL, Vogue Knitting Live this last weekend, was how popular the Tunisian crochet garments are right now. So I think if you want to get into Tunisian crochet, this would be a great choice. Now, there are lots of pictures in front to help you learn. And I think learning from pictures like this is a lot easier when you already know how to crochet or knit. If you know how to do both, it's going to be even easier, certainly. But Mary Beth also has videos on YouTube and some great illustrations here. And then it goes into pages and pages of illustrations, step by step. So if you're ever going to learn from illustrations, that's the way to do it. And then there are some really great patterns. You see, this one's a skill level easy, some textured pot holders. And I am a huge fan of learning new techniques with things like pot holders and washcloths. It's the right size. I think when a lot of us learn to crochet, we say, oh, I'm going to make a scarf or something. And then that scarf seems to drag on forever. But I think, yeah, when you're learning a new technique, make something small like a pot holder or a dishcloth or a washcloth. It's practical, it's useful, it's small. You can finish it and then set it aside and then make a second one. And that second one usually, is so much better. And you can see your progress right away. I love that. So look at this one though. This is the multi-stitch blanket. And here we are, skill level advanced. So in this book, you've got 16 projects and it really does take you through the gamut. You can see this one. You're going to be doing a whole lot of interesting stuff, not just your standard Tunisian stitches. So this is a great book, again, if you're someone who wants to learn Tunisian or if somebody who's been doing Tunisian for a while and you just like 16 new patterns. Really lovely book. Again, that's by Mary Beth Temple. You can see right there. And of course, both of these books are available on Amazon as well. And I have linked those links in the giveaways. So even if you say, okay, I don't want to take my chances, I need to get a hold of these books now, I do have links for them inside the giveaways. You can look through the reviews, see what you think, and then click right there to purchase them if that's what you'd prefer to do. So hi Sandy. She says she's hi from Charlotte, snuggled under a heated throw in my craft room, knitting a bulky sweater with Bernat Beyond. That sounds amazing and just about perfect right now. Making blankets right now is genuinely one of my favorite things to do this time of year for all the obvious reasons, right? It's cozy, it's snuggly, and you just get warmer as you crochet through them. And of course, crocheting a blanket is pretty darn quick. So that said, I'm going to very carefully set my coffee aside here so I don't knock it over. And then I will give you another sneak peek. You can see I've got my project bag here. I've got my CGOA project bag. I use tote bags to keep my projects organized. I'll talk more about that later, some other time. I've got some stuff in mind for that. But this is the blanket that I've been working on right here. You can see it's kind of folded up so I can fit it in my project bag. Now, I'm kind of on a stash busting mission this year. So I am making this in a baby size, but I want to assure you that this blanket will be available in all the sizes. Blanket math is my jam. I can come up with the blanket plan for you in just about any size you want. So when I write this up, I will include not only baby sizes, but all the way through California King. And if there's a size that's missing, if you want something specific, all you have to do is hit that contact me button, shoot me an email, and I am happy to add that additional size for you. And of course, if you're somebody who's used to doing the math yourself, I always try and include that information as well so you can make your own custom size. But it's not finished yet. This is still in progress. My hook is somewhere. I'm trying not to lose it and have it just go flying here and not undo my stitches. But here we are. This is a spike cluster afghan. This is the spike cluster stitch. And I have had so many requests over the years to do a spike cluster afghan. So I am finally doing it. This one, as you can see, is made with Bernat blanket. And I'm using one of the whites. I think it's which one was it? I think it's vintage white. There's a few whites. There's that vintage white and whipped cream. There's a few of them that are all real close, and you have to hold them next to each other to remember which one you're using. I believe this one is the vintage white. And then you can see I'm mixing that with what looks like a self-striping. Now I'm down to my last skein of it. Like I said, I'm almost done with this project. So you are going to get real life here. This is the real deal. You can see what's left. This is Bernat all-in-one blanket granny. And normally, or I should say in the intended use for it, is to make these granny squares. Let me hold that up there. So this colorway makes these granny squares, and it's all in the yarn. Now, the colors for this one are in fact connected. I talked a little bit about how with this one, it's a continuous strand. This one, I don't want to pull it all out, but actually, let me hold up the blanket. That'll give you a better view of it. This one, the colors are in fact sort of sewn together or attached to each other at the end, but you can crochet right through it. You don't have to cut it out. Like normally when you encounter a knot in a strand of yarn, the usual advice is to cut the knot out and just weave in those ends. This, you're meant to just keep crocheting. You don't cut. So let me find a spot where the color changes, which is usually super easy to find, but of course now wants to hide from me. There's one. Okay, here we are. Whoop, and get focused. There we are. Do you see that right there? Where there's pink and gray? That's where the two colors meet. So for this one, they didn't want to stamp the colors into the yarn, especially with the chenille yarn. I feel like that wouldn't have gotten all the way to the core. So the best way for this one was to actually attach them to each other. So you can use this yarn in its, quote unquote recommended way to make these granny squares. And if you do, it makes a big, big square. I want to say it's either 10 or 10.5 inches. Working off memory here. It might be 10.5 inches. It's a big square. Trying to think, did I have one over here? I did at one point, but I must have put it away. So it does make big squares, and I've used it for that, and it is pretty darn easy to make some big fun squares with it. But of course, it's yarn. We get to use it however we want. So I have been using this one just as a self-striping on this spike cluster stitch afghan, and I think it gives it a really neat effect. But of course, you can use two solids if that's what you prefer. I think two contrasting self-striping would also be quite interesting. Definitely up to you. Let me show you what the back of this stitch pattern looks like. I think this is really interesting. This is not what I would consider, fully reversible. Definitely not the same on both sides, but it's interesting on the back side as well. Check that out. Kind of a whole different look, but not a bad look, just a really interesting look. I think it's a lot of fun. You can see I've got my ends here all waiting to be woven in later. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. Oh, thank you. Oh, here's an interesting tip from Sandy. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you for saying it's gorgeous. But this is a great tip. Sandy says the knots work fine with crochet most of the time. They cause issues with knitting, though, and that is a great tip. I have not knit with this yarn, specifically this one. I have not tried knitting with it yet. And you can see with the granny square, it's certainly intended more for crochet, but of course you can knit with whatever you want to. And that is a good tip. So for knitting, you may want to cut it out or use a different type of Bernat blanket. There are so many different Bernat blankets out there, to choose from. They each sort of have I like to say every yarn has its niche or its home, right? Every yarn has what it's great at, but not just like people. Not every person's going to be great at everything. Not every yarn is going to be great for every project. This one, it sounds like, is better for crochet. Now, I will say, when I need to weave in my ends, I will cut that knot out. I'm not going to include not the knot, but the sewn together part. I will cut that out when it's time to weave in my ends because trying to get that on a yarn needle, it is just a little bit bulkier right there. Cut it out between your squares. Cut it out if you are sewing in your ends. And it sounds like maybe cut it out if you are knitting, unless you're doing something maybe on really big, bulky needles. But this pattern will be out in February. So I'm working on this one right now. Got a few more things to finish up before the end of the month. So that one will be out in February, and that one will be a free pattern as well on mooglyblog.com. I really enjoyed this particular colorway of the granny. I know it's not the prettiest skein to hold up anymore, but this is real life, right? This is what's left. I'm hoping it'll be enough to get me around, just do a little extra border action on it, bring that color into the border a little bit, but I'm working with what I've got. I had 2 skeins of it, and I'm making it work, and I know that's something a lot of you need to do as well, so that's one of the reasons I always try and include all that information in the patterns so you can use what you've got, or know exactly what you need to get to make the project in whatever size you have in mind. So again, if there's a special size you guys want to see and I'm missing it, definitely let me know. Just takes me a few minutes to sit down, do the math, and add it to the pattern. So what else? I think the only other thing that I haven't mentioned yet is I did want to give a shout out and a thank you to the Crochet Crowd and Mikey for including Moogly on their list of top 20 crochet blogs in 2025 and actually making us number 2. So thank you so much to the Crochet Crowd. We really appreciate that, of course. And we always share Crochet Crowd things on our social media, particularly Facebook as well. So thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Bill Prepper. I'm so glad you like the blanket. I'm really excited about it. I've been having a lot of fun with it. And it's funny because, like I say, over the years, I've had a few requests for a spike stitch Afghan, and the inspiration finally hit me, and I said, okay, this is what to go with. I am loving this. I was sitting there crocheting last night, just having the best time, just simply crocheting with this yarn and seeing how this stitch pattern worked out. It was just making me so happy. So I'm really excited to share it with you guys, and I hope you get the same feeling from it. I picked colors that were little bit Valentine's-y without being over the top Valentine's Day. And I think it's turning out really pretty. So I'm excited to finish it up and figure out what I want to do for a border. I'll admit I don't have a plan yet. I like to figure it out when I've kind of get it together and see what the yarn and the pattern are saying to me in the moment. So we shall see. I don't have a name for this one yet. And you guys were amazing coming up with the Rocky Road wrap for this one. So far the patterns this year have been the Mimosa Cowl and the Rocky Road wrap. So I feel like we're kind of on a food and drink kick. So especially if you've got something in that lines, definitely drop it in the comments. Um, I would love to hear your ideas because I will tell you, coming up with the names is probably one of the hardest parts of writing the pattern for me. I love making the design and then it's time to name it and my mind just goes blank. So whatever suggestions you have, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much. But I think that is it for today. We've been yammering for about 40 minutes now. I want to thank you so much for joining me this morning or over your lunch, whatever time it is for you. Um, it was amazing. So seeing so many of you at Vogue Knitting Live this past weekend. I'm looking forward to April when I'll get to see hopefully some of you live in Chicago as well. And then don't forget about those craft tours trips to Scotland and then Austria and Bavaria. Both are happening this year. They're not till later this year, but you need to sign up early. These trips, there's so many logistics and things. You can't wait to the last minute. Now is the time. Now is the time to talk to your friends, make plans, um, hold those spots, get those spots held, and then we can spend the year planning together. I've got new projects that I'm going to work up for each trip, so that will be exciting. I always like to try and theme it a little bit towards what we're doing as best I can. So I'm really excited about coming up with some new items for these trips that the rest of everybody else will probably have to wait till 2026 to see. So definitely check that out. Go to the blog today, mooglyblog.com. I've got links to everything that I've just talked about, as well as what I'm wearing, the work from home cardigan, if you'd like to make that. It's another free pattern on Moogly. And all of that is up now. And yes, I would just love to be able to travel the world with you this year. So do check that out. Otherwise, stay warm for now. Stay inside, stay warm, keep crocheting, keep knitting, order that yarn, and we'll talk to you all again soon. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day, everybody. Keep on stitching. Bye-bye.